I would like to talk to you about really what the trends are right now in artificial intelligence and what's been going on in artificial intelligence and its relevance to really what we're doing today, where the opportunities are, where the challenges are. But I think to some extent, what's really interesting is how does artificial intelligence and its evolution to where it is today really impact the whole process of being able to launch and develop a new concept, a new opportunity, a new startup, a new emerging business. That's one side of it. And the other side of it is to understand what really is the relationship between the impact of artificial intelligence on large corporations, and how is it going to be that really large corporations in the end are going to be able to take advantage of artificial intelligence as we go forward. For all the reasons that Greg spoke about before, there's a lot of challenges for corporations to really innovate, and these have been accelerated. These have grown to be much bigger because the speed at which technology and entrepreneurs are developing new businesses and new opportunities far exceeds the speed of decision making in large corporations. Somehow we have to find a way to bridge that gap. So with that in mind, here's an interesting fact. Since 2000, 52% of Fortune 500 companies have disappeared, and 88% since 1955. I'm not sure what you think, but that's an interesting statement. Now, I haven't been around that long. Well, I actually have, and probably have seen some cycles of things coming and things going, and industries and companies, once the greatest ones in the world, and now they don't exist, to be replaced by a whole new community of businesses. But those businesses, as Mr. Bauer pointed out, started as entrepreneurial ideas. We didn't know who was going to win. We didn't know Mark Zuckerberg was going to win in the social media space, because at the time he did that, there were 10 others. So we hear a lot about artificial intelligence. Time magazine. Is it the end of humanity? Is this really the end? Where are we going? Are the robots going to take over the earth and kill the humans? There's a lot of movies like this. Or is it really the future of mankind? Is it the greatest thing that's ever happened? Which one is it? So how many of you say this is the end of the earth? How many think it's the future of mankind? How many think it's somewhere in the middle? Probably. It's pretty good, but it's not that good yet. Okay. So let's explore where we live in between these two states. So a lot of people want to talk about artificial intelligence as disruption, and certainly this is a disruptor. The last time something like this has come along as a technology, as it really entered the marketplace and started to hit the curve where it starts to go into exponential growth, that it really was a huge disruption, changed the way business was done, created enormous opportunities for entrepreneurs, and challenged many, many corporations at their core. And when we think of one company that might have been the result of that last disruption that we think about every day, that turned an entire industry, an entire business model on its head, maybe Amazon?
Now everybody's online buying what they need. So the whole idea of e-commerce and what it drew was really amazing. And the early entrepreneurs that bet on e-commerce and its technology at one point create one of the most stellar startups known called Open Market. Open Market made the software that was able to implement online commerce. They soared to be $1 billion IPO. In those days, we didn't call them unicorns. But it was one. It doesn't exist. Doesn't it? So if you're in a really big company, now we're entrepreneurs, we want to look at this, but if we're really in a really big company, how do we really look at disruptions? And if we're an entrepreneur, how do you understand what disruption really means in terms of its opportunity? Okay, this is a chart. You'll notice, I think there's a point on this. Yeah. Over here, you know this company called Intel?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's still in most of our laptops, right?
Yeah.
I don't know. Did they make the right bet right here when they were thinking about what was going to happen to artificial intelligence? Did the guys at NVIDIA, did they really think that their graphic processors, they were in the graphic processing, co-processing business? They were not trying to make, ChatGPT run. They were not trying to. Now their processors are core. And look what's happening. Look how some innovation created huge disruption in the market to this business. And today, the founders of this company, I don't know, it'd be interesting to talk to them, to ask them, did they really envision this future? Or did they have the elasticity and the flexibility to be able to respond to the future? Where else have we seen this kind of? So this is, and this of course this is AI, right? This is the core of AI. This is AI and hardware. Facility. Let's talk about cars. How many people think this is an AI company? I mean, mostly an AI company with a mission. Maybe two things that, as Greg pointed out, Elon Musk, right? He put out a lot of interesting. He's going to space, and we're going to be on Mars, and we're going to have electric cars, which we are doing. But this is all driven by his vision. But really, they are as well as energy. But these guys sort of, they maybe sort of understood what was going on with fossil fuel and carbon energy, but they really didn't understand the disruption they were about to be faced. By that time, someone they probably thought, oh, that's a simple idea. I remember driving around in Amsterdam, some of the earlier electric cars, but then the one I was in then went out of business because their cars had a tendency to just go on fire and burn. So I remember those when we went with the Ritz. Okay, so here's a question you have to ask yourself. And if we're entrepreneurs, we're looking at the corporation, and I think it's okay to be very, very bold and to stand the ground and to not worry about it. Say, well, what do you think is going to happen to you? Will you be the predator or will you be the prey? This is a time of decision right now. This time, this day, this year, how are you going to respond to what's going on with this new transformation, this new real change, the one that happened in e-commerce now is happening as AI really hits this inflection point at the curve. So the question is, how long has this been going on? Is this new? How many of you think that AI is new by new, let's say, the last 5 years? 10? How about 20? 20 years. What year is it right now? 2024. So that was 2000. Okay. Can you play the video first, please?
Well, everyone seems to be talking about artificial intelligence these days. It's good to remember that this is not something new. In 1950, Alan Turing proposed the Turing test. That same year, Isaac Asimov proposed the three laws of robotics. In 1951, the first AI-based program was written. In 1955, the first self-learning game playing program was created. In 1959, the MIT AI Lab is set up. In 1961, the first robot is introduced into GM's assembly line. 1964 saw the first demo of an AI program which understands natural language. In 1965, the first chatbot, Eliza, was invented. In 1974, the first autonomous vehicle is created at Stanford AI Lab. In 1989, Carnegie Mellon creates the first autonomous vehicle using a neural network. In 1997, IBM Deep Blue beats Garry Kasparov at chess. In 1999, Sony introduces Arbo. That same year, the MIT AI Lab's first emotional AI is demonstrated. In 2004, DARPA introduces the first autonomous vehicle challenge. In 2009, Google starts building a self-driving car. In 2010, Narrative Sciences AI demonstrates the ability to write reports. In 2011, IBM Watson beats Jeopardy champions. That same year, Siri, Google Now, and Cortana become mainstream. In 2015, Elon Musk and others announced a $1 billion donation to OpenAI. In 2016, Google's DeepMind defeats Korean AlphaGo champion. In 2016, Stanford issues the AI 100 report. In 2016, UC Berkeley launches the Center for Human Compatible Artificial Intelligence. As you can see, AI is not new, but the advances we are making are progressing at an exponential pace, leveraging our ever faster computing power, the explosion of digital data, and the speed of communication infrastructure. In some ways, the commercialization era of AI has just begun, and it will profoundly affect our world as we know it. Similarly, or possibly more profoundly, than the way the internet and mobile phones have done so before. Don't miss the next AI breakthroughs and subscribe to the weekly Applied Artificial Intelligence Digest newsletter at bootstraplabs.com.
Okay, so that's interesting. 1950. But think about it. It said that 2015 is when Elon Musk donated $1 billion to OpenAI. Next year, that's 10 years. So it didn't happen yesterday, did it? So what do we think? What's next? You can see a little bit of a trend between Mr. Bower's conversation and this one, right? We're asking that question. So what's next? What's new and what if? What can happen? And how's that going to be important to us? There's a lot of opportunity out here that we can all exploit, both if we're large corporations and if we're entrepreneurs. And it's going to be the entrepreneurs that are at high velocity creating new opportunities that are going to be the theme, the deal flow, the opportunity for corporations to grow. And some of those corporations are going to be prey. Some of them will be the predators, as you saw. And the power structure is going to change. It's said that the world's GDP is going to grow to $100 trillion over the next 10 years. It's like 30 now. So let's talk about this a little bit. Let's think now about technology. I'm going to switch the concept. We're going to talk a little bit about how this really works, a little bit. So exponential technologies are enabling previously unimagined solutions, B2B, B2C. Why are we talking about this? Because it's not about AI, it's about everything. It's the network. You heard about that. It's the network. It's the software. It's the access to data. It's the democratization of information across the entire world. It's the ready access now for smart people everywhere to participate in the innovation economy with an efficiency that never was met before. And it has to do with the new kind of hardware being developed, the new kinds of software networking, applied AI and machine learning, multimodal UXs. Most recently, the folks from OpenAI, I think, what was it, maybe 5 months ago, put out a big release about how they did cool demonstrations about talking and having ChatGPT talk back. It was really a cool integration, but it was pieces of existing technology coming together to do something really interesting. And again, this has to do with velocity. So if we look at all this, look how long it took to get to 50 million users and all of these technologies from the time there were airplanes to when we had Facebook, Instagram, and now 5 days for ChatGPT. But remember, that was 10 years after the founding and the expenditure of billions of dollars. But this velocity, this speed of innovation, this speed of development of markets is really accelerating. And one of our beliefs in our shop is we think about what does this really mean about the situation between entrepreneurs and startups and large corporations. We have to find a way to work together and collaborate, right? Large corporation, as you heard, they're trained to manage risk. And as entrepreneurs, we want to exploit that risk. And there's some magic right now in the middle. Because the speed at which we as entrepreneurs can create new applications and create new developments and new value propositions is really, really fast. And I would contend it would take longer for a corporation who decided to do something to pick who should be on the team, get them in a meeting, decide the team, what the team's objective was, and launch the team. By the time they do that, some 2-3 startups probably already got their product to market. So it's a very challenging space. And it affects all the different aspects of what's going on. So the real innovation is at the intersection of what's going on in the whole concept of distributed computing. Blockchain is probably the most famous concept of distributed intelligence. You know, in the past, we had things called systems of record. And systems of record is when everybody in the world went off and built companies like Oracle. Because they're the people who make the record. All the data goes in the database, and then we transact on that. And if you have the biggest database, or a database of the right information that someone else doesn't have, you built a moat around your business from that data. And that data was the moat to protect your castle. Interesting. But then came along the last wave, and we got systems of engagement. So now as you hang out, you go and interact with Amazon, or you go in your search engine, or you want to have a conversation with ChatGPT or Perplexity, we're now in the system of engagement. So we've transitioned. And what's happening is this happens at the same time. Data itself is being democratized. It's connected. It's everywhere. So somewhere in the center of this, between what we know is machine learning and things like that, the ability to manifest it in terms of networks and systems of networks, and the architectures for security and digital training and digital training and digital systems being distributed. Is this world of opportunity that we think of. So partly what we're really talking about is the idea of systems of systems. We really now have to think about the world as a bunch of Lego blocks. None of us are going to create the thing from the ground up. We don't have the time, the world doesn't have the money or the patience. But what we can do is figure out what's the real problem some group of people need to solve in the world and organize how to solve that problem by putting together quickly the pieces and parts that allow us to address that. Because people like OpenAI and Google and IBM and Amazon have decided that they are putting zillions and billions of dollars behind the concept of being able to provide the platform technology for it. So the idea of a platform, like platform companies, is going to be rare. if we're going to see those really be successful. But vertical solutions to solve real problems that exist in the market, using that technology, building on top of that technology, creates value very quickly. So it's assembly by parts. So now we have a new efficiency in how to build the startup. And so what we think is happening in the bigger context of migration of technology and the impact of AI, if we include in AI the notion of the networks, the notion of the data, the notion of the communities that are using that data, is really democratized access. So for a long time, people have been talking about, the first world and the second world and third world and the underprivileged world. But we're in a time now when we can take a whole new approach to how to democratize access to healthcare, to education, to finance, to transportation and logistics and manufacturing, and most important, energy. So if you look at a robot, it's an autonomous robot, what it really is a whole lot of artificial intelligence, distributed data access. It's got all this data there, just packaged in this plastic thing with motors that looks like a robot. So, the AI could be in my computer. It can be in my robot. Okay, that's well. It can be in my car. It can be in my coffee machine. It can allow me to talk to my refrigerator. We're distributing access. And this distribution of access, this democratization of data and technology through AI is going to pour really revolutionary new ideas in how things are going to happen. And this creates a roadmap for your thinking about where your entrepreneurial opportunities. This diagram was the result of a thought leader summit that Greg and I at Scale Up Labs that we conducted 1 year ago, June, in Boston for 2.5 days. And we invited what we thought were thought leaders from all different walks of life, some from venture capital, many from large corporations who really deal with the physical world. We're really interested in the intersection of the physical world and the digital world because that's where it really matters. That's where the value comes. And asked them to talk to us. We had an open session about what to do, and this was the output of that conference. So if you think about things like education and access to education across the world, well, I don't know if anybody's tried. Have you ever spoken to ChatGPT in one language and had it talk to you back in another language? So is language any more a barrier to access to education across the world? Healthcare? Anybody heard of Amazon? I think it's called Medical One. One Medical. So for $99 US, I can have access 24/7 to doctors online all the time. So there's a lot of opportunity with this. So what this really means, though, when you think about it, the whole scene is really all about the data. Right? It's all about how we look at using data and how data becomes information. This was the world of analytics because they said, aha, the data, we can create insight. We'll make you a dashboard. We'll create Microsoft BI, Tableau, and Salesforce.com, who owns the world, of course, bought Tableau, and now they created Data Cloud, which is how you can apply AI to your data. Insight. You're going to hear a little later from one of the folks we work with, really creative folks from here at Columbia, how they have taken this and turned it on its head. They're opening up a whole new point of view, how to understand how to gather insight from data and turn it into value. So turning data into value is really what the focus is about. And artificial intelligence, distributed computing, security and blockchain and networks are where it lives. And the notion that you can protect yourself because you own the data is actually going away. Because there's a funny thing that happens with AI. If you take all the data and you put it into this big machine, that AI, I don't know why you call it AI. When did it come down? Anyway, you put it in this thing, you make a model. Well, I think what a lot of people I speak to don't seem to know is that once I have the model, I can throw the data away. Everything about the data and what it means and what it says. So in ChatGPT, Perplexity, Gemini, you're not actually accessing a whole lot of data. It's synthesizing things from the model in which the data drove the model. Now, this is a very sophisticated thing we can talk about someday for a week. But in essence, we're trying to create the interconnectivity of our brain to have the power of its ability to synthesize. And that's a connection machine operation. Okay, so we want to create value. And the value, once you have the data and you put it through the models, the question is the value data that's the value or the model? And if the model creates the value, it's very portable. Of course, you will need a lot of NVIDIA.
Right now.
Oh, good. Is that the next to go to or what? Okay, thanks. Okay, so how's this really work? So this is another thing, though, that's having to be turned on its head again in this period of time. It's something we really wanted to tell you about. We'd love to tell anybody who would listen about this. We think it's powerful. We think what's happened in the world is that generative AI itself isn't so important because it talks to you and answers questions. Okay, I guess it could become your new boyfriend or your new girlfriend. This is now a problem, right? People are falling in love with the generative AI. Okay, there's some. It's usually a good thing. Don't fall in love with your AI. That would be bad. But there's a lot of questions that you have about that. Right? What kind of relationship is that? Anyway, but it's turned the whole process of how we discover new opportunities on its head. In the past, if we really wanted to use AI, we had to build models. In the late 1990s, I ran a lab in Palo Alto, California, off the Stanford campus, where we were building AI models, machine learning models. Some of them were used to fly bombers, some of them were used to run factories. So what did we have to do? We first had to get it to be descriptive, which means we had to take a lot of data, kind of like Insight, figure out what it said. Then we had to get it then the AI could be prescriptive. It could sort of say, oh, well, if I see this, then the model will tell us to do that. And that gave way to predicting things in the future. And now we have generative AI. And if you really think about it, generative AI is just down here where the general AI, artificial intelligence, things like neural networks and things came in. Then we got into deep learning and machine learning. And now we have generative AI. That's really because of the investment of just chewing all this data up into bigger and bigger and bigger models and using as much NVIDIA computers as we possibly can, and to the point where we can't actually have the one computing model in one data center. We need to link together 5 data centers in different locations to do the same problem. What it also meant is that back in these days, we had to do a lot to get to this place. What we had to do is we had to first collect all the data. Then we had to take all the data and figure out how to clean the data. Because, garbage in is garbage out. So if we print the model with really dirty data, we'll get a really poor prediction. So now we had to clean the data. That's a really big problem. Now we had to take the data and put it through these big models and let them crunch and crunch and crunch. Those were called neural networks. And that stuff would all come together. And that neural network model would then give us the ability to prescribe and predict. We think this has all been turned on its head, thanks to people who spent billions of dollars for us. Okay? It's the capital to start our companies. Elon Musk gave $1 billion. Microsoft has invested $1 billion. People have spent billions of dollars to help give us the platform that enables us to really move forward with this technology to work that's been basically being built for the last 20 or 30 or 40 years, depending on how you look at it. Certainly the last 10, so in AI. And as a result now, we have multiple different and many, many more, but here's some of what we call large language models that have been built by digesting all the connected information on the internet. Again, it's a democratized world of information and data out there. No one really owns it. You could argue about copyright. No one really owns, and outside of model, that is copywritten. Well, I know the U.S. courts are trying to figure that out right now. So they put a lot of this money in there so that we can start to figure out how to use these things and turn them into value and create new businesses. So our challenge is how can we think and act differently in order to take advantage of this resource? How can we turn it around? And the best thing is for $25, that's a subscription to OpenAI ChatGPT 4. Oh, right? We can do a lot of things. So if we're a startup or a big company or a middle-sized company, we have any information at all. A lot of people say, "Oh, well, I don't have any data." Well, do you have any information about how much money people have paid you, what you sold them, how much you paid for the raw materials, who works for you, and what kind of salary you paid? I would be surprised if you don't have that data, at least in an Excel spreadsheet or on some accounting system. That data alone, if we took it into the discovery place and we presented it to ChatGPT or some other or Gemini and say, "Hey, tell me about this data, tell me how this data works, and tell me what it tells me," would give us the ability to discover. So use the Gen AI first. We'll use the AI first, not last. And using it first will let us discover the opportunities, the issues, problems that we have, such that we can then develop solutions and take those developed solutions, preferably as entrepreneurs, turn them into businesses, productize that, and make money, deploy it into a new product in the marketplace. So this is pretty much the mainstream of our message. It's not new. It's about data, networks, and connectivity. It's democratized, and we have really efficient access. So if you wanted to figure out if you have an idea for a business, you can, right? And you really want to understand your customer's behavior, and you really want to understand the jobs that need to be done that they will pay you for, so you can fashion your value proposition. Why don't you create a synthetic user with generative AI and ask that synthetic user to tell you what they really need? We've experimented with this. We've been working on that for the last 3, 4, 5 months in our shop. It's surprising. It takes us at least 70, maybe 80% down the road of understanding market issues around the value proposition. Well, that's like free money. I normally would have earned at least $500,000 of venture capital in the US, probably $100,000 here in Latin America to get to that result. So I've been accelerated. So there's a lot going on here behind the scenes that's very valuable. So if you think about what are the opportunities, one of the ones we make is called Sophia. And Sophia is an agent that we created that really lets you understand how to implement a perspective on how to do innovation-driven growth for large corporations. Actually, Greg Bauer and I have perfected over the years. I was going to show you this, but we don't have much time. Oops, that's good. But if you introduce Sophia to your business books, to your transactions, what you paid, what you bought, who bought what from you, it would automatically generate these kinds of charts to tell you how to diagnose your business and where the opportunities are. So in essence, we got ourselves out of a job that somebody was going to pay us as an advisor, as their strategy consultant. Well, now we just put it into an AI. This is everything we know how to do, and that's what it is. But that lets us think about other things. And we're trying to formalize this into a startup we call Taylor Apps in our startup studio that will take that to market. And it has some really, we believe, profound impact. But really, let's stop now, and I want to transition now. I'm going to stop at this point. I want to transition into you getting to be introduced to people who have really acted on these types of principles and are doing it now and making a really big difference. You're going to hear next from these 3 startups. Our Daniel, AI4MS, and Superlighters. These are people who have done really, really innovative things and have introduced a new capability. They went through the discover phase. They discovered where the need was and what they could derive out of data using AI in ways that people hadn't thought of before and thinking about it different, thinking about it as a discovery platform. And then they've taken that and been able to productize that by developing a product and have launched that product into the market as something fashioned that now is driving and delivering value to large and small corporations in different markets all over. So with that, I think, right, Rosa, we would like to. Okay, no problem. Okay, so you'll be hearing from these guys. So thanks for your time. I just encourage everybody to explore your thoughts, explore your dreams, and be innovative.